Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're digging into something really fundamental, the management structure of Microsoft Azure. Our mission, really, is to give you that shortcut, to help you get truly informed about how organizations, control their costs, enforce policies, and just streamline their cloud operations. Because let's be honest, before this kind of structure existed, managing cloud resources could feel like, well, just chaos, right? Unmanaged sprawl. So let's unpack this. We're talking Azure subscriptions, resource groups, and the bigger picture, the management hierarchy. What exactly are these things? What problems were they really designed to fix?
Yeah, it's interesting how they build on each other. So Azure subscriptions, they're essentially these distinct containers. They define your billing, but also your security boundaries. Think of them as your main dividers for your accounts. Each one's tied to an Azure account. It's got a payment method. And that's brilliant, actually, because it lets you clearly separate who pays for what and, crucially, who can access what. So if you have, say, a development environment versus your critical production apps.
Ah, okay. So you can wall them off financially and permission-wise? Makes total sense for keeping things separate, especially dev and prod.
Exactly. Keeps things clean.
Okay, that handles the big picture boundaries. But what about all the actual stuff inside those subscriptions? The VMs, the databases, that's where resource groups come in, I assume.
Precisely. Resource groups are like smaller, more specialized boxes inside a subscription. They're logical containers again, but they group related resources, things that share a common lifecycle maybe, or a purpose. So take a web application. You'd likely put its compute, its database, maybe its storage components, all together in one resource group. And the point is to make management easier, right? Deploying, monitoring, even deleting you. Treat that group as one unit. It simplifies things massively.
Like a tidy way to manage an application's bits and pieces.
Yeah, and it prevents those, orphaned assets, that forgotten database instance that just sits there racking up bills.
Hmm.
Resource groups help avoid that nightmare.
Okay, so subscriptions for the big boundaries, resource groups for tidying up individual applications. But what about like a really big company? Dozens of teams, loads of subscriptions. How do you keep things consistent across all of that? There must be something bigger.
And there is. That's where the management hierarchy really comes into play. It's this layered structure. You've got management groups sitting above subscriptions, then the subscriptions themselves, and then resource groups nested inside those. This whole structure gives you that centralized oversight. It lets organizations apply governance policies, access controls using RBAC, role-based access control, and track costs across their entire Azure footprint. For enterprises managing lots of subscriptions, lots of teams, this is absolutely key for scalability and compliance.
Right, so it really does sound like it solves some major headaches. Moving from that potential chaos we mentioned to a much more ordered system. Can you maybe highlight the key features someone new to this should focus on?
Sure. Well, RBAC is fundamental. You need to get granular with who can do what. But beyond that, tagging is, I'd say, crucial. Tags are just simple key value pairs like department, finance, or project Phoenix. They make organizing and especially tracking costs so much easier. Then there's Azure Policy. Think of it as your rule enforcer. It can mandate things like only allowing resources to be deployed in specific regions or ensuring certain security settings are always on.
Policy for compliance, got it.
Exactly. And all this stuff, RBAC tags policy, it integrates with Azure Resource Manager, which is sort of the underlying engine managing deployment and governance consistently.
That's quite a toolkit. So practically speaking, what are the best practices? How do people use this effectively day to day?
Good question. Some key things. Definitely create separate subscriptions for different environments. Dev, test, prod is classic. Use really clear, consistent naming conventions for your resource groups. Something like, project environment region usually works well. And group resources in a resource group by their life cycle or function, things that belong together.
Okay, logical grouping.
Right. And apply RBAC at higher levels where possible, like at the management group or subscription level. It's just more efficient than doing it resource by resource. Oh, and use resource locks.
Yeah.
Seriously. To prevent accidental deletions of critical stuff. And tag everything you can for cost tracking. Finally, structure your management groups logically, maybe by business unit or geography, whatever makes sense for your organization.
That's a solid list. But like any system, there must be things to watch out for, right?
Oh,
Any
no.
limitations or potential pitfalls?
Yeah, absolutely. A big one is that a resource can only belong to one resource group. So you need to plan that structure upfront. Subscriptions have default limits too, like often around 800 resource groups per subscription. You can usually request increases, but it's something to be aware of. And this is important. Deleting a resource group permanently deletes everything inside it. No going back easily. So those resource locks we mentioned, they're critical.
Right, locks are non-negotiable for important stuff.
Definitely. Also, for smaller teams, maybe just starting out, management groups might actually add too much complexity. And if you make your hierarchy super granular with too many levels, it can sometimes make governance harder, not easier. So careful planning is really the key to finding the right balance. But yeah, to sum up, these components, subscriptions, resource groups, management hierarchy, they form a really robust framework, indispensable, really, for governing Azure resources properly.
So what does this all mean for you listening? Well, understanding this structure is pretty empowering. It lets you manage Azure way more efficiently. You can build solutions that are organized, secure, scalable, and it just fit with how modern cloud management should work. And for your final thought today, think about your own digital life for a second. Could applying some of these organizational principles, like maybe segmenting your photos not just by date, but by project or purpose, bring a bit more clarity and control there too? Something to consider.